Is it hard?
Welcome to Breaking the Silence with Arthur, Nick, and Nicole, a podcast that dives deep into stories, struggles, and triumphs of extraordinary individuals. Join me as I explore powerful narratives, uncover hidden truths, and celebrate the voices that refuse to be silenced. Whether it's personal journeys, social issues, or inspiring achievements, the episodes are designed to enlighten, engage, and empower. Get ready for some candid conversations, thought-provoking insights, and a community that believes in the power of speaking out. Let's break the silence together. Welcome to another episode of Breaking the Silence with Arthur, Nick, and Nicole, where you can unleash your inner voice. So, season 3 is almost coming to an end, y'all. I've been recording 2 seasons at one time, and I'm telling you, it's all worth it because I have some amazing people that are coming across the Breaking the Silence platform. Today, I have Miss Dawn Williams. She is an author. She's a fertility guide, and she's known as the Fertility Angel. So I'm excited about putting her in the spotlight and also getting a little bit of information for some of these women out here about infertility. So after her countdown, please welcome Ms. Dawn Williams to the Breaking the Silence platform. How you doing?
I'm good, Nikki. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being a guest on Breaking the Silence. I'm excited about this episode.
I am so excited about it too. I absolutely love the title of your podcast, Breaking the Silence. Yep.
Thank you. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself. You know, I only gave them a snippet, but don't give them everything because we gotta get in this conversation too.
Okay, well, I can tell you I live in Pennsylvania. And I am a mom of one, and she actually just had a birthday, September 13th, and she turned 14. And that little piece of information will be significant as we go on in our conversation. But so yes, I'm a mom of one, and I'm married, and I have a bunch of animals. We have 3 dogs, 2 horses, and 6 bunnies. So we've got like our own little Williams farm, if you'd like to say, or zoo. That, and I am an author, and I am a fertility guide. So those are some key things about me.
Nice. So how did your journey start as a fertility guide?
Okay, so I have not been doing the fertility guide thing for very long because that came about as a result of the book that I wrote. And the book that I wrote was published last May, and it's called Free to Conceive. And the reason I wrote this book was because it is the book that was not out there when I was suffering with infertility. So if I'm speaking to some infertility sufferers out there, they know that there's a lot of silence, just like your podcast, Breaking the Silence. There's a lot of silence around it. A lot of people don't like talking about it. A lot of people don't know where to get the support for it. And, you know, back when I was going through it, we're talking a good 20 years ago. So there was less out there then. I think it's come a little bit farther, and it's not so taboo to speak about, but we've got a long way to go in making it be, just a common subject like other diseases that are out there. And in fact, infertility is considered a disease because under the definition of disease, it is, when a part of the mind or, part of the body is not functioning as it should be functioning, which is what is the case, with infertility. So for me, when I was going through it, I didn't have someone out there able, that was able to tell me what I was going through. There was a way out of it. There was a way out of the pain that I was going through. And there were some other things that I could have been doing to maximize my chances of becoming pregnant. Even today, I can still say this, Nikki, there is not a lot of talk about what I offer to people who are suffering with this disease.
Wow.
The infertility itself is really looked at as pretty much a physical problem, like what's creating this in a physical sense. And that is, definitely valid. And you should be discovering that for yourself, what's creating this physically within you. But what is often overlooked is what caused this physicality to begin with and what's still maintaining it as well. And when I say that, I'm referring to mental and emotional and spiritual pieces that are also part of this perplexing infertility puzzle. So in my book, I did so much research as a result of my infertility that I was like, you know what? I've got to create a book about this, because if I had had this information 20 years ago, I may have had a different outcome for myself. So I wanted to be the person to do that. And I'm just so excited to be able to share some of these things and the methodology that I created and put in my book and basically using with my clients today.
Nice. I love it. That it's always that way. Somebody could have told me this, and
Exactly, right?
and then you go do the research, and you're like, wow, I could have did this way and prevented a lot of
Right,
things. You
right,
know.
right.
So
Yeah.
let's lead to the next question. How has your personal experiences played a part in you being a fertility guy?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the pain of infertility, I suffered with infertility for over 6 years. And 6 years is a long time. And there are people who deal with it for less time and people who, many more years than myself. And my heart goes out to them. My heart goes out to them big time, because I think it's so misunderstood in the fact that we're taught early on, like we have to be so careful not to get pregnant. Like it can happen on a whim. And, young teenagers are, put on the birth control pill, and many remain on for years and years, which we're now finding can play a significant role for infertility later down the road because of what it does to the body. So here you are at, a young adult age, and you're preventing pregnancy. And then you're in a place where, well, shouldn't this happen when I'm ready, when it's time to do this? Shouldn't this just come upon me pretty quickly, like all the people around me that seem to get pregnant so easily? And then when you're put in that position, it's not there for you. I actually was in a tough position, and we all know that, as you age, a woman's eggs become less vital, less potent. There's fewer of them because we're born with all the eggs that we're going to have, but the development of them and the vitality of them changes as we age. So becoming pregnant becomes more of a challenge. And then if your partner is also older as well, then you've got a combination deal there. So for me, I was in a second marriage, and I didn't have any children in my first marriage because it came out at that point that he really just didn't want to have children. So I kind of lost a lot of like reproductive years during that time. But still, I'm still not regretful of that, because I only want a child to be in a family where they're truly, truly wanted. So I moved on and, ended up getting married a second time. And this man we're still married. He is 15 years older than I am. So at the time that we married, I was 37. He was 15 years older. And when you're 37, you're already considered older. Yes, to be having a baby. So if you're not getting pregnant within 6 months of trying at 35 or older, they want you to get checked out at that point. So I got checked out. I got, had all of the physical examinations and different procedures done. And they found that I had something called a high FSH, which high FSH stands for the follicle stimulating hormone. So that's also what they test women, maybe, who are listening, be able to say, oh yeah, that's what they test when they're seeing if I hit menopause or not. The higher number you have, the more likely it is for you to reach menopause and not be able to conceive children. So I had a fairly high number for someone my age. For someone at 37, I should not have had as high of a number as I did. So that was my physical piece to the infertility. And then my husband, he also had, sperm motility issues, the amount of sperm, the shape of the sperm. So we were combated with physical problems on both ends. And they gave us, I want to say, like a less than 1% chance of becoming pregnant. Wow. So yeah, it was devastating to me because myself, like so many of us that struggle with infertility, we've seen ourselves as being mothers since we were little ourselves. So it's a dream that we've held onto for so many years. And it's kind of an assumed stage of life. We kind of all think, well, I'm not gonna have any trouble. Even my mom, when I was getting tested, was like, well, it can't be you, honey. We don't have fertility issues in the family. Well, yeah, we do now. I'm one of them. So, there you are at that point with a less than 1% chance. And what do you do at that point? So a lot of us that are suffering with infertility, you're faced with that problem. Some of you may have not have been tested yet. And you kind of feel like, it's kind of like, do I want to get the bad news? Do I just want to, almost deny it at this point? I would encourage you, if you're suffering and I don't want to say suffering, you're probably not suffering at this point. You're probably just questioning, like, it's not happening. We've tried a couple of months, or we've tried 7 months and it's, not happening yet. It's better to test than not test, because once you find out some things, you might say, wow, I've now got more of a gift of time instead of letting more months go by, because there are a lot of things physically that can be done, medications that can be done, different procedures that can happen. Sometimes they find something, like, okay, your fallopian tube was blocked and now we can unblock it and, you guys are good to go, And then there's also people that get tested and they're diagnosed with unexplained infertility. They cannot find any physical reason why this isn't happening for them, which is extremely frustrating, because we all want to have a reason, right? Because you feel like you have the reason, although I had the reasons and it didn't really help, but you still want to have a reason. So I understand that, that frustration and that difficulty that, you have in your heart when you can't find a reason for something. But there's also the other perspective of, if they can't find anything, then it's more likely that it may just happen for you if we put some other things into place. And that's kind of where I come in. I feel like I come in as the fertility guide in conjunction with whatever diagnosis you have physically, but also particularly for people who are diagnosed with unexplained infertility, because it is my opinion that I truly, truly believe those people, there's something a cognitive mental component, not saying mental like something's wrong and you're crazy. Don't misunderstand that. More like the way that you're managing your mind, the way you're coping with stress, the emotional piece. There's some other pieces that may be going on that really gets downplayed in the medical field. And that's not to, give any knocks against them. I just think their training is more on the physical end. And I just think that that's what needs to be uncovered more is, what are some other barriers to conceiving that are not just physically based? And so that's what I do.
Nice. So you said they tested you for, infertility and
Yes.
being at the point of menopause. So when you're going through menopause, are there any chances at all that you can become pregnant still?
Yes. Now, I wasn't in menopause at that point. They were saying that menopause, based on my number, the blood test number, that it would be around the corner. Would that be 2 years? Would it be 6 months? They couldn't say. So that's why they were like, time is of the essence. So they were recommending that we go straight to something called IVF, which is in vitro fertilization. I had never had any of these procedures done. And the reason they were recommending that was because it was going to be a higher percent chance of success than something called IUI, which is intrauterine insemination. And that's basically, excuse me, where the male's sperm is inserted into the woman. So it's less invasive, it's less expensive, but it's also, with the condition that I had, probably less successful. Now, given the fact that, it's very expensive and we've never done this before, I was like, well, I still think we should try the IUI. We tried 3 of those. None of them worked.
No.
So that is the thing with, the emotional roller coaster that people who have infertility that they are on is, if even despite not even doing any medical procedures, you have that emotional roller coaster of this hope every month that this is going to be the month, and then the negative pregnancy test, and then this hope again. It is such a play on emotions that is the part I think that people who don't have this difficulty cannot even fathom and understand. And then you compound that with everything around you, like, baby gender reveals and baby showers and, Mother's Day. And there's so much around you that's just smacking you in the face, constantly saying, isn't it exciting to have a baby, but you don't have one? Isn't it a great group to be in, the motherhood group, but you're not in it? Like, it's just always there. So these IUIs, that was painful. And I thought to myself, the doctors were probably right. I shouldn't have done it, but I needed to do it. So you need to do what you feel is right for you. And we needed to do that. So then we moved on to the IVF stage, and it was not successful for me. What that basically entails, excuse me, is they give you injections, they're hormone injections, so that you can create more follicles and have more eggs. It's basically like steroids for your ovulatory system, so that, the eggs, the follicles get measured, like you're in there regularly to get your follicles measured. You're taking the shots to grow them, and then you're hoping that you will have, because there's more follicles that they're making happen, that they can actually have more eggs in them, so that when the whole process is finished, they can retrieve the eggs and they can select specific sperm. And that's what people are most familiar with when they say, oh, the egg was put in a petri dish with the sperm, and it was hopefully going to fertilize, and then it gets transferred to the female later, and hopefully the baby will take and the mom will be able to be pregnant. But for my case, what they want is a minimum of 4 follicles. Most people that have success with IVF, or at least certain stages of IVF, let's say it that way, they will grow at least 10 to 11 or more follicles. And that's probably the norm. I barely reached the criteria, which was 4. So I would keep going in. They weren't seeing them. And then they got them and they were growing, but it was only 4. And they're like, if you don't have 4, you won't get to the next stage. We won't do an egg retrieval. So I was always worried that I wasn't going to get there. And then I finally got there, and they're like, okay, we can do 4. So then I had the egg retrieval procedure. There was not an egg in each of the follicles. There was one that was empty. So I basically had 3 eggs. And then they found the sperm. They do like a process called spinning, which helps them to find the most perfect sperm, so that there'll be a likelihood of fertilization. Right. And I was working as a elementary school counselor at the time. And I remember this call so vividly, Nikki, because I was so excited. The embryologist, spoke to us after the procedure, and she said, I think it looks good, and, I can't guarantee anything, but, the eggs look good, the sperm look good, we'll hope that there's fertilization. She called me at my job and she said, I'm so sorry, but none of the eggs fertilized. I was absolutely devastated, because to me, that was like me being pregnant almost. You know what I mean? Like, if it can fertilize, I mean, yes, we still would have had a step to transfer it, and that's a big step as well. But for it to not even fertilize, I was just mind blown by it, because I was like, well, if science can't put the most two perfect things together and make this happen, how is it ever going to happen naturally for us? Like, I just felt so lost because I just was like, this just is done for me. Like, I didn't know what else there was. Because I barely got there as it was with the 4 follicles. And then they couldn't get that to happen. And basically what they said to me at that stage was they already had me on the highest dose of hormones to create these follicles that they couldn't do anything more for me except for me to get an egg donor. So I would have had to, find someone that, there are people who, are egg donors and they donate their eggs and they get paid for that. And you can, kind of select through a directory, all the qualifications for that if you want to like find the person that would be a good fit. But my husband and I were just like, there was so much money spent already, so much devastation, so much emotional anguish. And he said, I feel like we're just putting our money on a roulette wheel and just hoping our number comes up. And we kind of just felt like I either wanted our baby to be 100% biologically ours or not ours either way. Like, I guess I just didn't feel comfortable. Like, okay, so when this baby's born and people be like, oh, wow, he's got your, her dad's eyes. She's got no, she doesn't have my anything because it's not biologically mine. And that would just, I know that would bother me. So, we chose to, at that point, just continue trying naturally, even though we know our odds were very poor. But we still got ourselves involved in a lot of other things. Like we had a prayer group, we had prayer groups going that were praying for us. We had I was raised Catholic, and we had our priest come over and do like a special prayer and a special blessing. I had a relic that I carried around, which was the Saint Gerard relic. And that was part of the Catholic saint, who is the saint of fertility. And so when I would go to my different procedures, I would carry it with me. I would say the novena that went with it. So I was trying to hit on like the spiritual piece of things. And then we also were involved in it was a wellness program that was by a naturopathic doctor. And she basically said she got a lot of different couples pregnant. And she said she really thought she could help us because we basically would be doing what so many books out there are describing, Nikki. There's a very popular book out called, I'll probably get the name wrong now that I'm trying to think of it on the spot. Something about the egg, the quality of the egg or the egg. It's all about like really giving your body a lot of nutrition and a lot of good health to create vitality with the eggs. And that book wasn't around at the time. And like I said, there wasn't a lot of information, to tell you the truth. And this person, this naturopathic doctor, was like, okay, you're going to be on all organic. It was very intense. All organic foods, no sugar, no, caffeine, no alcohol, no white flour, no dairy. You're going to take a lot of homeopathics that I feel are right for you. You're going to take a lot of supplements, and you're going to do them at specific times of the day, before and after certain foods. And it was like overwhelming. My husband was on it as well. We had to drive a good 2 hours once a month or more. Like for 2.5 years, we did this. Wow. 2.5 years. She got every couple pregnant but us. We did not get pregnant from that. I also did acupuncture, which is also known to really help with balancing the body, balancing your hormones, helping with anxiety that, is obviously at play when you're, dealing with this kind of condition for so long. We did that for a year. Both my husband and I did not get pregnant. So how did this baby happen might be the question, right?
Right.
Baby happened. So I want to say probably about 4 years into our 6-year infertility struggle, I came to the realization that, and it wasn't an easy realization. I actually had a good friend of mine who had a conversation with me, and I had a huge grief release. Like I was holding so much emotion in, trying to be very resistive that this was actually a problem for me. Like this is not a problem for me. I believe and I know that I'm going to be a mom because I'm meant to be a mom. Like I just believe that it would happen, but I think I also still had doubt as well because it wasn't happening. So I came to the realization through this big grief release that I want to be a mom no matter what. And I don't have to have it biologically be my child, that I'm okay to adopt. And prior to that, I was not. I definitely was like, I needed to be my child biologically. And, people ask that oftentimes when you're struggling. They're like, well, why don't you just adopt? It's not meant to be hurtful, but it's a very cavalier, like flippant statement that's almost like, well, if you can't have a baby, then just adopt. Well, did you adopt? Did you,
Right.
why don't you just adopt? Why do we all want to have our biological children because
Right.
we're innately set up to do that and our bodies are supposed to cooperate, right? But so it would be very frustrating when people would say that because I was like, wow, you really don't get it. And you don't realize how hurtful you're being by
That's
even
insulting. Yeah.
it is insulting. You're exactly right. So the issue became I was ready to adopt, but my husband was not. So it was yet another feeling of like, I have no control over the situation. Like, I want to be a mom so badly. And my friends would say, well, are you going to end up resenting your husband because, you can't biologically become one and now he doesn't want to adopt? So like I said, well, I hope not, but I do believe that as I said earlier, I do not want to bring a child into this world that is not 100% wanted, biological or adopted, So I had my prayer groups praying and they actually shifted their prayer to helping my husband's heart change towards adoption. And 2 more years went by and there was still no baby. Well, actually, I want to say it was probably, yeah, it was 2. It was 2 years. So one day I came home and I saw him on the computer and I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just looking up how to adopt babies from Colombia. I was like, what? Like, where did this come from? Because I really did not harp on him. I wasn't like, did you change your mind yet? Like I was just like, you know what? I got to let him do him and we'll keep the prayers going. And I'm just going to like really, God knows my heart. He knows what I really want. And I know that he wouldn't put this desire in my heart if I wasn't meant to be a mom.
Exactly.
So it was at that point that his heart changed. His heart changed towards adoption. And part of that was, I said, well, what changed your mind? And he said, I had my younger sister during this struggle with infertility, which often happens too for us sufferers. My younger sister ended up getting pregnant. And that was actually really, really tough for me because she's younger than me. She's pregnant. I'm still trying. But I was very, very supportive of her and just, went to her appointments. And when the baby was born, I was able to watch this little guy one day a week. And my husband would see me with him and he was like, oh my gosh. He's like, you have so much love to give. He's like, you have to be a mom. And he's like, and I want to be a dad and I want to share in this with you. So that's really what came about. And so we then entered the world of adoption. And that's its own thing. But to keep this kind of concise for you guys, literally when I hooked up with an agency that was right for us, which took a little time, but we hooked up with the right agency. And within 9 months of signing up with that agency, the exact timeline of a pregnancy, I became a mom. And we adopted a baby at birth. We were able to be there for the birth and have the whole excitement of that, as close to, being in labor as you possibly could be. And yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. And I think me not being able to conceive, as odd as this sounds, I feel like me not being able to conceive is what actually helped me to figure out what I would have done differently had I known what I know now. Well, my knowledge of this happened. Let's just say I adopted her 14 years ago. Like I said, she's 14 now. My knowledge of this happened a good, 10 years ago, like 10 years later. So the research that I did, the mentors that I had in my life, I have a master's degree in counseling. I put all of that together with my experience and how I made the adoption be successful and how that could have been applied to conceiving. And now that is what I have in the book as the methodology behind maximizing your chances, looking at what's not uncovered physically with doctors, and also helping the experience of conceiving and trying to conceive be as pleasant as possible, because having your body in that state of non-stress, non-desperation, non-resistance, no anxiety is what's going to bring that baby to you anyway. So it's almost like me teaching my clients how to put their body in a state that's conducive to conception, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And that helps them cope with the experience, but also prepares them to maximize their chances as well. So that's kind of how it all came to be in a nutshell.
Nice. So how did you get the name the Fertility Angel?
The fertility angel. Well, the fertility angel is I am a coach and a counselor wrapped up in one, but I feel like the word coach is so common. We've got all kinds of coaches out there. But I feel like an angel. I feel like, an angel is a messenger, and I've got a really good message to share. And they're an encourager, and they're a guide, and they're a support and a hope and all of those things. And that's what I want to be for my clients. I am not going to be able to make a pregnancy happen. I don't have that kind of power. God has that kind of power. He's the only one that's making anything happen. But I tell you what, when we put the things into place and we show God that we mean business here, like we get our belief systems in play, we get our emotional state in play, and we have everything aligned, body, mind, and spirit, so that this body is welcoming and is free to conceive, which is what the title of my book is. You're free to conceive because you've now erased all the obstacles that are getting in the way. And sometimes we're not sure what those are. And we just, like I said, only know that there's physical ones in the way. But let's not forget, the body and mind are hugely connected. They play off one another. Anybody knows that if you can think a thought and feel sick to your stomach, right? You can have a thought and feel scared to death. So for us to ignore that and think that when you have a disease like infertility, that only the physical piece is at play, you got to give equal airtime to the other things, and that's what I do as the fertility angel. Is I'm looking at not only being a support to you, because gosh knows I needed a support person that I didn't have back then, but I'm a support person for them. But also I've got the wisdom and I've got the knowledge, and I can be their courage when they may not have some for themselves. They can borrow from me my knowledge and my wisdom, and I can kind of just guide them along the way to having success. And I don't look at success just as, oh, there's a baby at the end. Heck yeah, that would be the ultimate success, because anybody who's struggling with infertility, that's what they want.
Yes.
So of course I'm helping them with that. But I truly feel with what I do with my clients that their biggest success along the way is becoming the best version of who they are, because they're going to be tapping into things that they didn't even know they had control over. Like, you're going to be setting yourself up to be the best mother you could ever be for this child that you're wanting to be a mother to so badly, because of what we work on. We're working on your emotional state. We're working on how to manage your mind so that it serves you well and gives you the results you're looking for, rather than pushing them away and keeping them from you. We're learning about how to surrender, how to say, you know what, I may have this distinct way that I want my life to turn out, and it has to go like this, but I need to be open, and I need to say the same force, the same powerful God force that is beating my heart and allowing me to breathe knows better than I know. And if I can trust that and release into that and still do my part as I'm releasing into that, I'm going to have peace through this process, and I'm going to be in the best, state to be able to bring this child into my life than I ever would otherwise.
I love it. So this is
Mhm.
that question, the out of the box question I was telling you about. What will your future self remember about you now?
Oh, I love this question. What will my future self remember about me now? My future self is always going to remember my passion to never stay the same. And when I say that, is because I have such a passion for growth and for learning and for becoming more. I think, that is why we're here, is to
Mhm.
grow and develop and evolve. And, different people are put into our lives, different circumstances are put into our lives. And those ones that are the most challenging, like the stinking infertility, it actually forces you to grow. It forces you to become the person that you're needed for the next level of your life that's coming. So my struggle with infertility has helped me tremendously to parent my child. Like, without that experience, I think I would have struggled more parenting than
Mm.
than would be, typical. And I still struggled parenting, and I still had to grow from that. And I'm still growing from that because now I'm in the teenage years. But
Yes.
I think
Ooh.
my future self would be like, thank you for continuing your process of growth, because you'll never, the experiences that I have, I know that I can get through because I know what I have control over and what I don't. And what I don't have control over, I know how to surrender. And I know how to minimize suffering in my life. And life is 50-50. There's 50% positive and 50% not, right? And that's never going to change no matter how much money you make, no matter the perfect mate that you find, no matter what happens. You'll be at a different level or stage of your life, but you'll still have 50-50. But if
Yeah.
you can get really good at how to manage that other 50, then you're pretty much golden. So I think
Golden.
yourself would say, thanks for being golden.
Nice. So now we're down to our 30 seconds of fame, but I'm gonna do a little twist with it.
Okay.
In your 30 seconds of fame, I know I say 30 seconds, but I want you to not only tell everybody where they can find you and follow your journey as the fertility angel, but and how to get coaching. I also want you to give advice to those mothers out there that are suffering, with infertility, and
Mhm.
how to still stay positive, because you stayed positive all that time. You did not give up. You
Yes.
tried
Yeah.
everything,
Mhm.
just to come around to do the thing that
Mhm.
people insulted you about. Why don't you
Yes.
just adopt? Everybody wants kids naturally. So I felt that when you said that. That's an insult.
Mhm.
Like, come
Mhm.
on, why didn't you adopt? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
seriously.
exactly. Why didn't you adopt?
So I'm gonna do your countdown, and when we come back, I want you to give them those mothers that encouragement. Maybe just to get them to the next level, and let everybody know where to find you, how to follow your journey as well. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Spotlight's on you.
Oh, yay, the spotlight's on me. Okay, I was like, "Where's Nikki?" That's right, you did say that. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna just quickly show my book here. So this is the Free to Conceive book. This book can be found in, you can get them in your local bookstores, but also Amazon. So it's easily found there. And then I also have a website that is called, you can reach it at www.yourfertilityangel.com. And on that website, you'll see a bunch of things on there. You can see if you kind of are a fit for working together with me, based on, different things that I say on there, different questions that I'm asking, if you feel like it's a fit. My book can be ordered from there as well. And I offer a free consultation. So sometimes they think that that's just helpful to say, you know what, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I really want to get coaching. But I'd love to talk to her and see what, that really is all about, what kind of program she has, what she could do for me. Are we a fit personality wise? And, I definitely appreciate that when people offer that. So just know that, that's available on there. You can sign up for a free consultation and we can just chat together, discover one another a little bit. My tip for moms that are struggling right now and how to stay positive, I want to say to you, one of the best things that you can do for yourself is learn how to manage your brain. Okay. What a lot of us think is that we think that our circumstances are what create our feelings and our emotional distress that we have, but it's really our thoughts about those circumstances. Okay. So one of the things I like to do with moms when I'm moms in waiting, or however you want to say moms to be, I like to say moms to be because I know that you will be, is looking at infertility itself, like what like doing like a brain dump on paper and like all of your thoughts, dumping them down and saying every thought that you can think of that you have, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, whatever it is, no judgment, dump it on paper for 2 minutes straight, just think of as many things. And you look at all of those thoughts and we work with what those thoughts are, because if you don't think that they're impacting whether or not you get pregnant, you're wrong. They do. They impact it because the way that we think affects the way that we feel. And the way that we are feeling affects the body's, how conducive it is to being pregnant, because we put ourselves in such a state of fight or flight. And when our body's in a state of stress and fight or flight, it deprioritizes other systems in the body that it's not going to need in a fight or flight state. So like back in the day when you had to run from a saber-toothed tiger, all of that energy needed to be put in your muscles so that you could run and flee. And today we don't have a tiger to run from. We have, jobs that we hate that stress us out, or spouses that stress us out, and family members and whatever it might be. But we stay in this chronic state of stress. And when we're in a chronic state of stress, the reproductive system gets shut down. So the body knows when it's not a good time to create life. And so my point is if you are constantly putting yourself in a state of stress, and I had a problem with that. I did that. And I think that may have perpetuated me having the condition of infertility. And then I stayed in a stress state, which kept me infertile. So that's why I'm taking it back to work with somebody, or, there's plenty of programs out there. It doesn't necessarily have to be with me, but I talk about it in my book, and you're welcome to work with me if you'd like. We will look at how is your brain affecting all the other pieces. And once you get a handle on your brain and you say, wow, I have had so much control that I did not know that I have. It's so empowering to know you can view things completely differently. And because you think about them differently, everything else falls in line with it, as far as how you feel about yourself, and also the emotions that you experience as a result of it. So brain management, key.
Nice. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Miss Dawn, for coming and sharing
Thank
your
you. Thank
story.
you. I appreciate it.
And congratulations on your 14-year-old now.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, best gift ever when the adoptive or the birth mother handed her to me and said, now go to your real mom. It was the best feeling ever.
Wow. Well, you made it. It might didn't happen the way you wanted it to, but it
Exactly.
happened.
It did. It did happen. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I can help you bring motherhood to your life. It may look different than you want it to be, but we can make it happen. We can make it happen in some way or another. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm rooting for you. I'm excited about the journey that you're on. And if there's anything you would like me to advertise in the future that you have coming up, just let me know, and I'll
You.
definitely continue to shine the light on you.
Oh, I so appreciate it, Nikki. Thanks so much for this platform and your audience and you. I really,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And to everyone else out there, oh, we got some comments. I didn't even know I had any comments. See, I told them I'd be so focused on my guests, I don't even know what the comments are going on over there. But thank you so much out there to everybody else that was watching this amazing episode, Miss Dawn Williams. Listen, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You may be going down that journey where you feel like, I can't have a kid. I'm not going to have a kid. And then you come to realization, there is another way. But in the beginning, saying that, oh, why won't you adopt? That is not the way to go. Why didn't you? I would have took that the same way. Why didn't you adopt? But she still, had that bundle of blessing at the end. And I'm so happy that she was able to, experience motherhood. Motherhood is really rewarding. It can be trying too. It can be challenging, especially when you get into those teenager years and then you get into the adult years. You're still raising kids, even though they're adults. You're still trying to raise them and guide them too. So that becomes the hardest part about being a parent. And I say that all the time. People are like, what you mean? Yes. When they become adults, it's still like you're raising them because you still have to guide them through this crazy world and give them advice. And that's when they need you the most. So if you're struggling with infertility, make sure that if you have missed this episode, come back, watch it again, get some information about it, and know that you're not by yourself. You are not alone. Your voice matters. You matter. And no matter what you're doing in your life or what you're trying to do in your life, you can do it. You just got to start with you and believe in you. So until the next time, continue to break the silence with Arthur, Nick, and Nicole, and join me at 2 p.m. for the next episode with a counselor from my actual hometown. We'll be on the stage at 2 o'clock. So join me at 2 o'clock, and I'll see you then. Later.
Thank you for joining me in another episode of Breaking the Silence. I hope that you have enjoyed our conversation today and it has inspired you to think deeper, speak louder, and take action. Remember, every voice matters, and together we can create a world where we all win and no one feels unheard. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Stay connected with me on social media for updates and more powerful stories. So until next time, keep breaking the silence and making a difference.